All right, so let's kick off this deep dive. And today we are looking at DeepSeek,
Okay.
this Chinese AI startup that just seems to have kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They're claiming to be, on par with ChatGPT in terms of their capabilities,
Right.
but for a fraction of the cost and the computing power.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to kind of unpack this story with you today.
Yeah, me too. This is a really fascinating one.
Yeah, and I think for our listeners, why this matters is because it's kind of shaking up
Yeah.
the whole AI landscape and what it might mean for the future.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the way DeepSeek has come onto the scene
Yeah.
is really turning the industry on its head. I mean,
Yes.
think about it.
Right.
OpenAI reportedly spends what, $3 billion every single year
Yeah, it's a crazy amount.
to train its AI model, and
Yeah.
DeepSeek is claiming they did it for like $6 million.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
But that's a difference of like astronomical proportions.
Yeah, so it's not just about building another AI,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really about sort of changing the rules of the game.
Yeah, it's about changing the whole game.
Yeah.
And their claims have sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
I mean, some experts
Oh, absolutely.
are praising their innovation, and they see it as a sign
Right.
of China's rising tech prowess.
Mm.
Others are really skeptical.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They're suspecting that DeepSeek might be reverse engineering, existing models.
Oh, interesting.
There's even speculation that they're using a technique called distillation
Okay.
to train their model on OpenAI's GPT-4.
Hold on now. Distillation, what is that exactly?
So imagine you're taking like a really complex recipe
Okay.
and you want to simplify it without losing like the essence of the flavor.
Okay.
So that's kind of distillation in a nutshell.
Okay.
In the AI world, it basically means training a smaller model on the outputs of a larger, more powerful model.
Right. So you're kind of piggybacking off of...
Yeah, you're kind of learning from the master
Right.
and then creating your own version.
Okay, so it's kind of like an apprentice situation.
Exactly.
Got it.
And it's a really clever way to achieve, comparable results, but with much less computational muscle.
So even if they are utilizing, existing technology, there's still a level of innovation involved.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Oh.
the impact is undeniable.
Right.
You remember the massive drop in NVIDIA's stock value after DeepSeek's announcement?
Oh, yeah, that was huge.
I mean, almost $600 billion in a single day.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was like the biggest loss in the history of the U.S. stock market.
Biggest loss in U.S. stock market history. And, while the stock has kind of recovered somewhat, it's still a stark illustration of how this tiny startup has rattled the giants.
It's pretty remarkable.
It really is.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if the U.S. tech giants, with all of their spending, have maybe become a little bit too focused on those short-term gains.
It definitely raises some questions. It's
Yeah.
like they've built these really elaborate, expensive fortresses.
Yeah.
And DeepSeek has come along and said, maybe there's a simpler,
Right.
a more efficient way to reach the same goal.
So it's like they've exposed this kind of vulnerability.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a wake-up call
Yeah.
for these companies, forcing them to kind of reevaluate their whole AI development strategies.
Yeah, so more than just a competitor, DeepSeek is also a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
And this all kind of ties into China's broader ambitions,
Yes.
like
You know,
to
it's-
be a major player in the tech world.
China has been very strategically pushing to build a tech sector that is independent of the West.
Right.
And DeepSeek's success, whether it's through, pure innovation or clever adaptation,
Yeah.
it really plays directly into that ambition.
And this is causing some anxiety in Washington, right? I mean, we've already seen the U.S. implement these export controls to try to limit
Yeah.
China's access to advanced technology, particularly the kind of chips that NVIDIA produces.
Right.
But is that really working?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, some argue that these controls are actually counterproductive,
Oh, really?
that they're forcing Chinese companies to become even more resourceful
Wow.
and self-reliant.
Right.
So instead of stifling innovation,
Right.
they may be inadvertently accelerating it.
So we're almost pushing them to innovate faster by trying to hold them back.
It's a complex geopolitical chess game,
Yeah.
Yeah. And this brings us to another really fascinating aspect of DeepSeek,
Okay.
their decision to make their model open source.
Okay, so now this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
Because they're essentially letting anyone download, modify, build upon their technology.
That's right.
And that's a radical departure from what we've seen, from companies like Google and OpenAI.
It's a bold move with huge implications.
Yeah.
I mean, on the one hand, it has this potential to truly democratize AI, making it accessible to researchers, developers, even just hobbyists around the world.
Right.
So imagine a world where this cutting-edge AI technology is no longer limited to, a handful of these powerful entities.
It's a really exciting prospect.
It is.
But at the same time, I keep thinking about the risks.
Yeah.
What's to stop someone from taking this open source model and using it for malicious purposes?
Well, that's the flip side of the coin. And it's a very valid concern.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the early days of the internet,
Right.
incredible potential for good,
Yeah.
but also this capacity for harm.
Right.
So we need to be thinking proactively about safeguards regulations.
Yeah.
But it's a complex challenge because we're essentially trying to regulate something
Right.
that is constantly evolving.
So it's not just about, technological innovation.
Right.
It's about responsible innovation.
Absolutely. And this is where the conversation needs to go beyond just the tech industry.
Yeah.
We need ethicists. We need policymakers.
Everyone needs to be involved.
Social scientists. Everyone needs to be at the table.
Yeah.
To figure out how we navigate this new landscape.
It's a big challenge.
It is a huge challenge.
Yeah. But I think that's a good place to maybe pause for a moment.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground already,
Yeah.
just in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
We've talked about the technical, intricacies of DeepSeek's model.
Right.
We've talked about the broader societal implications of open source AI.
Yep.
But there's still so much more to unpack.
Oh, yeah.
So stay tuned because we're going to delve into the geopolitical ramifications of all of this
Yeah, wait.
and what it means for the future of the global AI race.
It's going to be good. It's fascinating. What DeepSeek's strategy could represent is like a paradigm shift
Okay.
in the way we think about AI development.
Mm-hmm.
Because traditionally it's been about brute force,
Right.
bigger data sets,
Yeah.
more powerful hardware,
Just spending tons of money.
higher costs.
Yeah.
But DeepSeek is challenging that assumption.
It's almost like they're playing a different game altogether.
Exactly. Instead of trying to build the biggest, most expensive model, they're focused on
Right.
efficiency, accessibility.
Right.
And this open source approach could be a game changer,
Yeah.
especially for smaller players who have been priced out of the AI race.
Right. They can't afford to build those
They just can't keep up.
giant data centers.
Exactly. So imagine startups and research labs, in developing countries,
Yeah.
suddenly they have access to cutting-edge AI technology.
Yeah. That would be incredible.
It could unleash a wave of innovation from all these unexpected corners of the world.
It's an exciting thought, but I keep coming back to those potential risks.
Yeah.
It's like opening Pandora's box,
It is a bit of that.
How do you control something once it's out in the open like that?
That's the million-dollar question. And there's no easy answer.
Right.
It's kind of like the early days of the internet,
Yeah.
Incredible potential for good,
Right.
but also the capacity for harm.
Right.
And I think we need to be thinking proactively about safeguards and regulations.
Okay.
But it's tough because we're essentially trying to regulate something that's constantly evolving.
It's a moving target.
It really is.
Yeah. So it's not just about, the technological innovation.
Right.
It's about responsible innovation.
Absolutely. And that's where the conversation has to go beyond just the tech industry.
Yeah.
We need ethicists, we need policymakers, we need social scientists.
Everyone needs to be involved.
Everyone needs to be at the table to figure out how we navigate this.
Yeah. It can't just be, the Silicon Valley engineers making all the decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about the big picture implications.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a moment and think about the average person.
Okay.
How might this impact their daily lives?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
Because for most people, AI is still this abstract concept.
Right. It's something you hear about, but you don't really
You hear about it in the news,
interact with.
but you don't really interact with it directly.
Right.
But with this democratization of AI, that's going to change.
Right.
I mean, we're already seeing AI-powered tools
Yeah, in our phones, in our cars.
in our smartphones, our cars, our homes even.
And that's just the beginning, right?
Yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
So what kind of applications might we see in the near future?
Well, the possibilities are truly vast. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine AI tutors that personalize your learning experience.
Oh.
AI assistants that manage your schedule and your finances.
Right.
Even AI-powered tools that help you create art and music.
Wow.
I mean, AI has this potential to augment our capabilities and free up our time
Right.
for more creative and fulfilling pursuits.
It sounds almost utopian in a way.
It does.
But I have to admit, there's a part of me that's still a little wary, you know?
Sure.
There's this fear of the unknown, this feeling like we're losing control.
It's understandable to feel that way.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that AI is ultimately a tool.
Okay.
Like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
Right.
The key is to ensure that it's developed and used responsibly.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, that's where informed citizens play a critical role.
So what can we do as individuals?
Well, first and foremost, stay informed.
Okay.
Don't just passively consume headlines.
Right.
Dig deeper, explore different perspectives, try to understand the nuances.
Okay.
There's so many fantastic resources out there.
Right.
Documentaries, podcasts, articles from reputable sources.
Right.
Educate yourself about the technology,
Mm-hmm.
its potential benefits, its potential risks.
Yeah, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the information out there,
It is.
but it's so important to stay engaged.
Absolutely. Engage in conversations, ask questions, challenge assumptions.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to have those difficult discussions about ethics and responsibility.
Right.
Because the future of AI, it's not predetermined.
I like that it's not predetermined.
It's something that we shape collectively.
Yeah. We're not just passive observers in all of this.
We're active participants.
Yeah. And that's where DeepSeek's emergence becomes really significant.
It does.
It's not just about a single company or a new technology. It's a symbol of this much larger shift.
Exactly.
It's underway.
A shift that's challenging those existing power structures.
Right.
And forcing us to really rethink.
Yeah. How we do things.
How we approach AI development.
This is bigger than DeepSeek.
It is.
It's about a global conversation.
Absolutely.
It's a paradigm shift in how we think about AI,
Yes.
how we develop it, and how it integrates into our lives.
It's about recognizing that AI is not just a tool for technologists.
Right.
It's a tool for humanity.
That's a great way to put it.
And it's up to all of us to ensure that it's used wisely.
Okay. I think that's a good place to pause again.
Okay.
I feel like we could talk about this for hours.
Me too.
But we've covered a lot of ground, from the technical intricacies of DeepSeek's model
Right.
to the broader societal implications of open source AI.
We've explored the potential benefits,
Yeah.
the risks we need to be aware of, and the importance of individual responsibility.
Yeah. But we're not done yet.
No, we're not.
We still have to delve into the geopolitical ramifications
Right.
of DeepSeek's emergence.
Exactly.
The potential responses from the U.S. government
Mm-hmm.
and what all of this means for the future of the global AI race.
The stakes are high.
Yeah, they are.
Well, stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
where we'll continue to explore this fascinating and transformative technology and its impact on the world stage.
Okay, so welcome back. We've been unpacking, this whole DeepSeek situation,
Yeah.
their technology, their strategy, the ripples, it's sending across the AI world.
Right.
But now let's kind of zoom out a little bit to the global landscape,
Mm.
What does DeepSeek mean for the balance of power,
Right.
especially between the U.S. and China?
Well, this is a major development,
Yeah.
in this ongoing kind of technological competition between these two superpowers.
Right, because it's not just another tech sector, right? It's exactly.
It's increasingly seen as the key to economic dominance,
Mm-hmm.
military superiority, maybe even cultural influence.
AI is at the heart of all of that now.
So DeepSeek isn't just about algorithms and data.
Right.
It's a pawn in a much larger geopolitical game.
Absolutely. It's forcing the U.S. to kind of reevaluate its position,
So we talked about the export controls, on those advanced chips,
Right.
but it sounds like that might not be enough.
Well, some experts believe that those restrictions are actually pushing China to innovate faster,
Oh, wow.
making them less reliant on Western technology in the long run.
So what are the other options? Like, what might the U.S. do
Well,
to counter DeepSeek's impact?
there are a few potential scenarios,
Okay.
One option is to just double down
Okay.
on investment in domestic AI research and development.
Okay.
So you're talking about
More funding?
government funding for universities,
Right.
partnerships with private companies, a real push to kind of cultivate homegrown talent. So it's like a technological arms race.
Yeah.
But instead of, building tanks,
Yeah.
building algorithms.
We're building algorithms.
Okay.
Another possibility is a more collaborative approach.
Okay.
Some argue that instead of trying to contain China,
Right.
the U.S. should focus on building international partnerships,
Okay.
setting global standards for ethical AI development,
Right.
and working together to address some of these risks that we've been talking about.
So it's two very different paths, competition or cooperation.
That's right.
Which direction do you think the U.S. is more likely to take?
It's tough to say. You know, there's a strong current of kind of techno-nationalism running through U.S. policy right now.
Okay.
So a more competitive approach seems likely, at least in the short term.
Okay.
But I think long term, collaboration is really the only sustainable solution.
Right.
Because AI is a global challenge, and it demands global solutions.
It makes you wonder if the U.S. tech giants, with their focus on short-term profits and stock prices.
Right, quarterly earnings.
Yeah. Are they really equipped to handle this kind of long-term strategic thinking?
That's a great question. There is this concern that the pressure to deliver those quarterly earnings is hindering their ability to invest in the kind of fundamental research and development.
Right. The long game.
The long game, exactly.
So DeepSeek has exposed a weakness then.
Potentially.
Yeah, this disconnect between the pace of innovation and the demands of the market.
It's a real tension point.
Yeah.
And it raises questions about whether the current model of AI development, driven by big tech and venture capital, is that sustainable?
In the long run.
In the long run.
I mean, this whole DeepSeek situation is like a stress test.
It is.
For the AI industry.
For the entire industry.
It's forcing everyone to kind of re-examine their assumptions and adapt to this rapidly changing landscape.
And that's what makes it so fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
We're witnessing this pivotal moment in the evolution of AI. And the choices that we make now are going to have really far-reaching consequences.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
okay,
what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think the most important thing is to recognize that AI is no longer this futuristic fantasy.
Right.
It's a reality.
Yeah.
That's shaping our world in really profound ways.
It's here.
It's here.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the technology,
Right.
It's about power. It's about ethics.
It's about the future of humanity.
It's about the future of humanity, exactly.
We've talked about the potential benefits of AI.
Right.
From personalized learning to augmented creativity.
Solving some of the world's most pressing problems.
Yeah. But we've also explored the risks, job displacement, autonomous weapons.
The potential for misuse.
Yeah. And I think that the key takeaway is that the future of AI is not predetermined.
It's not set in stone.
It depends on the choices that we make.
Right.
Individually and collectively.
Exactly.
We need to be informed.
Yes.
We need to be engaged.
We need to be asking those tough questions.
Yeah, this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
It really has.
DeepSeek has shaken things up, but I think it's also an opportunity.
It is.
A chance to have this global conversation about what kind of AI future we want to create.
A future that will be shaped not just by algorithms and data, but by human values, choices, and actions.
Well said. Well, thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And for sharing your insights.
I encourage everyone to keep learning, keep questioning, and keep engaging in this really crucial conversation.
Yeah, because the future of AI is in our hands.
It really is.
So until next time, keep exploring.
Absolutely.